All right, go ahead.
Ladies and gentlemen, xenomorphs and predators, welcome back to Unsheathed. On this rendition, I have a very special guest. So much so that I had to get Johnny B's weapon of choice and the Jap flag and the 7th hat. With that being said, I have Warbag, as many people know him. Warbag, also Joe Renfro, one of my seniors when I was in 2-7, and we've more or less chatted here and there throughout the years, and he's pretty closely watched my progress, my growth and things. And Joe is still active. He's been in since, as I just told him, since he served alongside John and Baslone as a gunner. So I figured it'd be more than appropriate to get baby Baslone on here. With that being said, Joe, welcome, brother.
How's it going, Tyler? It's good to see you, man. I'm grateful for this opportunity to get with you and have this conversation and stuff. It's been a long time coming and everything. I know we don't chat as much as we ought to, but such is the nature of things. And when you know a lot of people, especially in this occupation, right? You've got a lot of people that you could be chatting with like all the time, and I mean that's a lot of conversations. That's a lot of depth to have, and you can't put that everywhere. You only have so much time, so much bandwidth and everything. And I really like to see your progress. And what I see from you is that, like, man, you seem to be doing great. I mean, it looks good to me. I mean, you're an inspiration to a lot of us, I think, and everything that's going on. So that's good. What I remember about you is that definitely one of the most mature Marines that I served with in 2-7. I mean, you're like I mean, a lot of dudes looked up to you, and you always kept your head up and everything, and you were really good at doing what you did. So I like that. So
I appreciate it, brother.
Yeah.
So essentially how we can kick this off is, like I said, you're active. So maybe people that for whatever blasphemous reason don't know your name and your handle, I mean, first and foremost, they're going to unfuck themselves. That's very clear. We know that.
Yeah.
How long have you been in the service?
Well, it's been 18 years. I've been serving since September of 2003. And yeah, right. And that was a good time. I mean, well, it still is a good time right now. I am doing my dream job. I'm a cat platoon sergeant, loving my life, just out there rocking the heavy guns and the missiles and stuff. My platoon is amazing. They are competent. They are mature. They have it together. I've had like no disciplinary issues from these guys and stuff, besides, minor haircut things and a little bit of holes in camis and whatnot. But, it's not like I'm going to sit there and put them in the front leaning rest or have them do mountain climbers on the quarter deck or nothing like that. I mean, I'm not that guy anymore.
And that shit's over.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I like how the Marine Corps is kind of going away from the whole, hazing, toxic leadership sort of thing, and really holding people accountable. And I like how they're doing this thing about incentivizing good leaders to stay in and putting away that zero defect dinosaur mentality. And yeah, I mean, I think that's going to be the wave of the future for, I mean, what is essentially an all volunteer force. I mean, it ought to have been like that since long ago when we transitioned to an all volunteer force and got rid of the draft and got rid of the guys that didn't want to be here. So that's one of those things. All right, so I guess we'll kick into the whole intro.
Super quick though.
Yeah.
Super quick though, just out of curiosity. I was at the gym a couple days ago and I saw this kid in there, high and retarded haircut, muscle tee, had Okinawa on the back. I was like, okay. And I was talking to this kid, and this kid was, I want to say a 52. I don't remember, but he was saying something about cat, machine guns, all of them. Everyone's going away. They're all getting integrated into line platoons.
Yeah, it's that's not everybody yet. There's a couple of experimental littoral commands and stuff currently in the works right now and doing their deployments. And they have a whole different type of mission set that has to do with supporting naval vessels from, islands in the Pacific. And that's going to be really cool to see, but it's going to be integrated a lot with fires, artillery, using HIMARS and everything, and essentially doing distributed operations and having security areas and whatnot. So it's not a lot of there's not a lot of moving and patrolling or like snap VCPs or anything like that that has to be done that would require mobile assault platoon, or things where you're fighting tanks or anything like that, where you're going to require like tow missiles and stuff. Besides you know the effective ranges and stuff of those systems aren't going to be able to affect anything that's out in the ocean or like over the horizon or anything like that. So using our electronic warfare capabilities, and then our sensors technology and stuff, being able to effectively defend like territories out there in the South, or like basically the Southwest and the Pacific and everything like that. It's going to be pretty critical to be out there and be confident with fires and fires integration, not so much with with grounded maneuver. So yeah, you could see some of those going away and stuff. I think a lot of those will be limited as far as rotational forces, because as a force in readiness, we have to be prepared for just about any mission. So keeping some legacy battalions with the current, like what I'm doing with the old table of organization and equipment and stuff is going to be important as well, to accomplish those other missions before those skills atrophy, deteriorate, and eventually disappear.
Yeah, makes sense. So just adapt the TO to the situation, as we have forever. So
right. I mean, you'll see that Marine Corps will go through like several different transitions and stuff. I mean, with weapon systems, and one in particular that I like to mention and stuff is, going from the legacy M2 Browning machine guns, right, where you would have to apply your own headspace and timing, to using the M2A1s. And now it's been several years since that transition has happened, but we have a major gap in information and knowledge and how to set that headspace and timing. The problem with that is the amount of problems that they've had with these weapon systems, the M2A1s. And the thing is, you can't just apply the same principles that you would for a 7.62 machine gun, as far as a quick change barrel onto a round that's twice the size, with like 4 times the amount of explosive force going through the chamber, and expect everything to be honky-dory. It's not going to happen. So I mean, not a gunsmith, not an armorer, just a regular machine gunner. And I can tell you that there's a reason it hasn't been working so well. I mean, you see the armies, they work really well, but their logistics chain is a lot tighter as far as repairing or replacing those things. And Marine Corps, GCSS, all that kind of stuff is quite a bit slower as far as getting the things that we need to keep those weapon systems up. So what they've determined is that they ought to go back to the legacy systems. Problem is the knowledge gap from all that time of not doing headspace and timing. It's a good thing they've got like old dudes still here that know how to teach it.
I just picture you just losing your mind quietly in front of these kids.
Yeah.
Like you have no idea.
Oh yeah. I was over at we were doing Armor Cree, and we had some white space downtime and everything between live runs with 50 cals, and I was able to kick a class to several of my machine gun leaders and stuff on how really essentially the headspace and timing works, and how it affects inside of the weapon system, and like what the cycle of functions looks like, and what part is basically placing force on what other part and driving the next piece of the cycle. So that was to some of them that was new information, to a lot of them that was a really good refresher, or like an enhancement of their knowledge base or their understanding on how that weapon system works, and how John Moses Browning is essentially a genius. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah.
I'm having a couple of audio issues here. Go ahead and say something for me.
Test.
Yeah.
Radio check.
Yeah, gotcha. All right, now I got you out of both ears. We're good.
Okay.
All right. So yeah,
let's jump back to private, to who you are now.
Where have
you been? I mean, you've been in Guadalcanal. We got that.
Right.
Roger.
So I joined the Marine Corps out of from Rogue River, Oregon, out of the RSS Grants Pass, and that was a pretty good thing. My recruiter, Sergeant Hazlitt, was a 12-year sergeant about to get out as a tanker and everything, and pretty much was just like, all right, what do you want to do? I'm like, I want to be infantry, like little Joe Renfro rolling in there with my long hair and stuff down to my neck and everything, looking like a little turd, wearing all black and stuff. I didn't paint my nails or none of that stuff or wear guy liner, but man, I was one of those kids, you know what I mean? If I wasn't wearing all black, I was wearing like, camouflage at school, but not like mossy oak, like old BDUs from like, my dad or from my uncle who were in the Air Force. So I was one of them weird kids, you know what I mean? Love listening to all that heavy metal and being like a angsty teenager like we all are. I mean, pretty much perfect for the Marine Corps.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, just about right. You got this whole like, victimhood complex where you're stuck out there in the middle of the woods. It's like, I got no friends and my parents are holding me back. I don't get to play on teams, blah, blah, blah. I mean, a lot of that stuff's my own fault because, my horrible grades. Like I did not do well in high school at all. My I typically had like D's or sometimes failing and stuff. And then whenever it got down to failing, it was just like, oh, better like kick something into high gear so I can be eligible for wrestling again. Jeez, you know, love that stuff, right? Um, so that was a pretty good time. I think that during the delayed entry program, I had a couple of issues and stuff. Went to MEPS the day after my 18th birthday, and come to find out I had a hernia, which disqualified me from joining the service. And they're like, "Well, you picked the right one, because the Marine Corps was the only one that's going to accept you after you get the surgery done, but you got to pay for it for yourself." So I did. Went, got my surgery, came back several months later and stuff to re-sign back up and get back to MEPS and you know be qualified and go back to high school, graduate, finish it up, and then go to boot camp in September of 2003. So that was a good time. I think I should go back a little bit to the purpose of why I joined and everything. I First of all, there was a war going on.
Yeah,
So yeah, September 11th, 2001. I mean, that happened in my first senior year of high school when I was in California. I was living in Fairfield, and you know going to school out there, living with my dad for the first time in like I don't know 15 years. So whole new environment, whole new like family dynamic and everything. Living with my dad instead of my mom and my siblings, and so it was like really stressful for me. And ended up having a little incident there at high school that got me expelled, and yeah, that didn't work out so good. But
yeah.
you know I went to alternative school and worked my way toward getting graduated from there, but I was like a half a credit shy. So I'm like, screw this. I'm going back to Oregon, right? Go back to Oregon, and I'm like, yo, like, what do you mean that all these credits that I worked for out in California don't count here? And I got to do like basically 2 years worth of school in 1 year. Oh no, that sucked. A lot of credit retrieval classes, but I made it. Finally graduated and stuff, and made my way into the Marine Corps, and that was excellent, right? You know, boot camp was awesome. I still remember my drill instructors' names to this day. All right, so my senior drill instructor, steps up right. Sergeant Lagoria, the only infantry guy that I had. Sergeant Leon, the brand new dude and stuff like that, short and just a little ball of fire and stuff. Knocked me into a rifle rack one time, and that was pretty fun. And then
Those guys. Yeah.
yeah, loud screaming Sergeant Flores. I mean, this dude was just mean as hell, but man, like, yeah, I mean, good guys nonetheless and stuff, and they trained us well, and didn't hate any of them. It was actually kind of nice because later on, a few years later, while in Iraq, I ran into one of my drill instructors, like right after taking the IED to the face, like in
Yeah.
2007, right? I'm down at the RAS and stuff, and I like hobble my way over to the phone, like the phone center, the Spay War Center, and whatever. And I get in there and I see him, and I'm like, oh no, it's my drill instructor. I was like, oh no. I'm like, Staff Sergeant Lagoria. He's like, Renfro, I remember you. I'm like, no way, you do. He's like, what are you doing here? I was like, well, got blown up. He's like, oh yeah, I guess that'll do
Yep. That'll happen.
it. Yeah, kind of good stuff though. Like, so go to SOI and everything, and decided like first choice I want to be a machine gunner, second choice want to be a 51, third choice want to be an 11. Right, I got my first choice, excellent, because I got like a GT score of like 125. So like, you get what you want, right? Like if you're a little smarty pants, you get what you want, I guess.
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah, so that was good. There was 12 dudes in my machine gun class, so there wasn't many of us to observe. When I was pushing machine guns as common instructor, I mean, we'd have like classes of like 30 guys, and that's a lot of dudes to push for machine guns.
Yeah.
But at that time, it was still like pretty small numbers as far as guys that were training, especially over there in SY West. I mean, the classroom's only so big, so it is what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is back in the olden days where we trained, 240 golf, 50 cal, and Mark 19, and we would do our like 20K with the 50 cals and stuff, and that was like, oh my god, this hurts so bad. And that was like, so yeah, that's me like big dicking everybody on the internet right now and tell them, yeah, I did my 20K with a dang 50 cal, and I shot my rifle with iron sights, blah blah blah. Yeah, good stuff. I'm dinosaur. Yeah, so that was a good time. I think that it was a really good experience having a pretty small class like that. We got really tight with those dudes, and um, four of us ended up going to First Battalion, Fourth Marines. Everybody else ended up going to Third Battalion, First Marines. And well, we know what happened with all of that stuff. Well, I'll tell you if in case you didn't. Um, Shortly after arriving there, two 2 months after arriving, I mean, we execute our pre-deployment leave and then get on the boats and start heading out toward like Iraq and everything. So it was part of the 11th MEU. Um, get on the boats, bring all of our gear, like every single one of our trucks. I was in Cat platoon in 1-4, so we had to load up all our trucks on LCACs and stuff, get on the ships, and then steam toward Iraq, land in Kuwait, get it all off there, drive it up to the top of Kuwait and everything, like do all of our stuff. SASO training, which is like security and stability operations, right? So you're like running all this stuff, how to do detainee handling, searches, VCPs, and whatnot. It was a lot of stuff, but like because of the weather, because of how hot it was, and like freaking late June, early July of 2004, we're
Yeah.
like having to train at nighttime and sleep during the day. There's no air conditioning in these tents at this time. You're just like out there like dying. And it's like, oh god, it's like pretty hard to sleep when it's like 120 degrees inside of the tent and stuff, and there's like no airflow whatsoever, and all you can smell is man. It's just how it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Sweaty balls all day. But yeah, that was good. Then we had to end up bolting on all of our own armor and putting sandbags on the floors of the trucks and stuff, and that was a pretty good experience learning how to up armor Humvees for the new IED threat that we're just finding out about, because at that time, like in timeline of the war and stuff, right, we are on our way out to Najaf, Iraq, where dealing with this guy out there called Muqtada al-Sadr and his like Mahdi militia and everything. But also up on the north side over in the like Sunni Triangle and stuff, you've got a new arrival to the scene, which is Zarqawi, who's building IEDs and like sourcing IED makers and like doing a lot of murder and intimidation campaigns throughout the country and stuff. And it was like nuts. So that made things difficult, I suppose. But from my perspective, being a brand new boot, that was about as normal as it can get. So
Yeah.
it is what it is. So after doing Battle Najaf, Battle of Fallujah, and then going back to Najaf again and stuff, I got to be part of the elections down there, and that was great. Like I loved that. I thought that was a pretty cool thing. It's like part of history. You know what I mean? One of the first elections that took place in January 2005 down in Najaf, Iraq and stuff, which is a place where you don't typically see a lot of democracy going on over there, right? So that's kind of nice. Yeah. Closed up that deployment over in end of February, almost March of 2005. Finally got back home after like 10 months of being gone. That was a lot of fun. But yep. Back in those days, we had this little thing called split pay, where like you allot yourself only so much money and everything to pull out of dispersing like every month and everything. I did $60 because a carton of smokes is like $5. Come on, man! Like you buy about 5 or 6 of those and everything like that, and you're good for like the entire time. And what else are you gonna buy? Like everything is provided for you. You get rippets, you get chow, you get whatever and stuff. You know what I mean? You don't have to buy nothing, like except for like phone cards. So I'd buy a couple of phone cards, or we just use the Iridium phone and not have to worry about it. So didn't have to spend a lot of money. I came back with $12,500. And
Bravo.
yeah, and then I drank it and spent most of it on strippers, I think. Yeah. Because I mean, come on, man. I'm like still like 20 years old. I was dumb. I was just a stupid kid.
Rich as hell.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, this is the most money I've ever seen in my life. Yeah, basically. Second deployment was a MEU. That was great. Getting a bunch of like brand new dudes and stuff, and like having a 13-month workup before you
same unit.
Yeah, same unit. And actually same MEU too, going on the 11th MEU again. But this time, instead of going to Iraq, we just like went around the Gulf and then stopped in Kuwait for a few months as like a contingency force over at Buring, waiting to support, like in case the Army couldn't push forward for any reason, or if they needed more bodies up in there. So we were basically a reserve. Yeah. So that was kind of nice. Then we got back on the boats and stuff and floated back home, and that was cool. I mean, got me didn't have quite as much money when I came back from that one, because you've got the green bean coffee over there in Camp Buring or Camp Victory and stuff like that, and you're just doing whatever you want, spending all that time on the internet and playing with your phones and stuff like that and whatnot. Like, yeah, it was just what a waste of money. I came back with like $6,000 on that one. Then the next thing was my third deployment, another Iraq deployment in 1-4. Yeah.
You're good.
Yeah, I just got home.
No worries.
Yeah. So like, get to Iraq. It's my third deployment. We're over in Anbar province, working over in the Al-Qaim up north by the Euphrates and stuff. I was on the north side of Euphrates with my platoon. We were transitioned from being in a CAT platoon to being a mobile assault platoon. So they took away the missiles, threw on more machine guns and stuff, taught us more things about snap VCP tactics, did a lot of things like, PB ops throughout the towns and stuff, more SASO stuff, more like counterinsurgency, more like law enforcement, or like, dealing with the populace, or embedding with local like host nation forces and everything, and trying to get them to take care of their own stuff. Good luck with that one. A lot of those guys, they would stay in their little fobs and stuff like that we built for them, and with their trucks that we gave to them, and then like just try to exist the way that the U.S. military did, by living on their bases, and then like going out every now and then, instead of actually integrating with the population and creating areas out there like posts within the town, so that they can have continuous visibility. Or it would have been probably better to place something like a sheriff, or like deputies and stuff like that within those townships, to give them 100% visibility and always have protection and stuff. And then went and have a decent comm plan, so then when a check-in didn't happen, it was good chance that they probably got their throat slit in the middle of the night or some crap like that. So you find something to do about it, right? That might have been a better way to go about it, but that's not what we did. It's hindsight's 2020, right? It is what it is. And you can't tell them how to live their own life and do their own thing in their own country. So
how long was that one?
That one was about 6-7 months.
Okay.
That was 2007, and about like a month into that deployment, no, about 3 weeks into that deployment is when I took an IED strike to the face and stuff, and then two of my boys went home. Well, one of them went home because of his because he broke his tibia and fibula. Another one went home for another like broken leg issue and stuff. And then later on in that deployment in October, we lost another guy to an IED strike, but like it wasn't the primary IED that got him. The first one like blew his truck up, made it stand up on the back freaking wheels and shit, lands, and everything's fine and honky dory. He gets out of the truck, everybody's freaking good. He goes back to the truck, jumps out of the driver's side, the opposite side that he came out of originally, lands on a secondary, and
Yeah.
big miss.
Game over.
It just happens. You know what I mean? It's like, wow, 5 and 25, bro.
Hmm.
Jeez, it's like one of those things. You look back at those things, and you feel a lot of like. I understand that like a lot of dudes spend a lot of time thinking about stuff like that and what could you have done better and stuff. Well, from the outside, if you are not that guy, you can't do anything better. Like, what are you going to do? Train him more? He already knew. Right. So like, there's nothing you can do. So there's no reason to sit there and live in this guilt or shame cycle and stuff. And like, beat yourself up for it. So I've essentially gone with that one. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
After,
you so you
yep.
finish that. That third one concludes.
Yep. Then I go to, as a young corporal, I went to combat instructor school, weighed like 120 pounds and stuff after that deployment. I was freaking skinny as a rail. I was not ready to go to combat instructor school. I ended up failing that for the SOP exam because like my brain was still being that young, like 3-year corporal and stuff like that. Like, I know everything. I mean, I freaking, I'm big, screw your SOP. So yeah, you fail the SOP exam so many times you get dropped, and that's what happened. So I go back to the unit. I'm like, all right, cool. Now what do I do? Right. I was already re-enlisted, so it's like, okay, well, I might as well go on another deployment. And I was also married, and the wife was not having that. She's like, no, you're not going on a fourth deployment. I'm not having that. Blah, 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 blah. She freaking gets behind my back and goes talks to the first sergeant, who calls up like the monitor and everything, and finds a way to get me orders out of there to 29 Palms to go to Advisor Training Group, which is one of my favorite places that doesn't exist anymore.
What I what is that? I remember the name.
Yeah. So ATG was like out there in Camp Wilson. So how like you got like, TTCG, Mojave Viper and stuff that runs all of their like, training and stuff through, Wadi Salam and out on the east side of like, the 400 ranges and everything. Right.
Hmm.
Well, on the other side, on the west side of 29 Palms and stuff, like out, MSR Boston toward Hidalgo and everything, we basically owned all of that space. And we did motorized ops, trained MIT teams and BIT teams, like so the mobile training teams, or like the ETTs and stuff that are going after Afghanistan, like the bits and the bits going out to Iraq, putting these guys in 3-man truck sections and mounting them with heavy machine guns, teaching them weapons, tactics, advisor skills and stuff, how to communicate with the populace, how to work with the host nation forces and everything. A lot of the stuff that I had just done in Iraq. So I was just the right guy to be there. And I showed up and I was like a freaking rock star. It's like, hey, you already know the entire curriculum and you're pretty good at this. And you're just a corporal. Really? All right, cool. Eventually I got promoted to sergeant out there, and that was kind of nice. And I was like, oh, sweet. I loved that job. I mean, it was good because like the guys that I was working with were awesome. A lot of like retired guys or contractors and stuff, a lot of like, old knowledge, useful information and everything like that, things that have, gone away, and being able to see some of those like good old concepts come back and everything, and implementing those and then creating master lesson files for these guys was a lot of fun. Right. I mean, through the advisor pack or the advisor part of it, the tactics part of it, weapons, or like the foreign weapons package, rough terrain driving package, all kinds of crazy stuff, right? Like a mount package. We had a lot of fun in like a 17 to 23 day Yeah, it's 17 to 23 day training cycle and stuff. A lot of stuff to
Okay.
jam in there. But these dudes basically lived in the K span right next to the thing, so it's not like they were, you know, not training, or we made them live in the fobs sometimes and everything, and we just like go out there. Ugh, it would be 4 in the morning to like 2000 every night and everything training these dudes. So like, yep.
How long of a
Yeah.
contract is the ATG?
How it was 2 years.
Okay.
So, and what's really cool is that it was like a really small cadre, only about like 80 people, like actually working there as instructors or support staff and everything.
Yeah.
So, really tight crew. And, you know, it's like half a company of Marines. So, you're like, you know, everybody. And that was a
Yeah.
lot of fun. And like, I still talk to some of those guys to this day. And every time I go out to 29 Palms, I run into at least 2 or 3 of them and everything, and be working over at range control or something like that. Like, so it's good to see the old crew, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, what's up, guys? They're like, oh, Warbag, what the hell, dude? You're still in no shit. Yeah, I am. But yeah. And right after that, went to 2-7, and that was a challenge. And I'm gonna tell you why. Because I went to went to Echo Company, a line company, after doing what 4.5 to 5 years in a cat platoon, and then like 2 years as a motorized ops and everything else instructor and stuff like that out there. You know, now I got to use my feet. Gross.
Yeah.
Oh, that was horrible. But you know, back in the fleet and everything like that, and married and trying to have a baby and stuff like that. Well, actually, I think I had my first child by then, like in, so Jojo was born in December of 2009, and he, like, you know, that was like my kid, you know what I mean? He saved my ass in a big way. To explain how that goes and stuff, like I said, I was pretty like, you know, I was a bit of a, I lacked humility and restraint and self-control and all those other
Mhm.
things,
Mhm.
and I was really a kind of a monster, you know. So that was a rough one for me. But you know, I suppose we had some other problems too, especially from the war and everything with the post-traumatic stress, and then like dealing with like the, you know, the guilt and the shame cycles of like, you know, losing dudes, and then like, you know, leaving your boys and stuff to go to a different unit and everything like that, watching them go off and deploy again to Iraq and everything while you're back home, or going off to an instructor job and stuff. You don't feel
Yeah.
like you're quite as significant or as, you know, quite as useful in where you're
Mhm.
being employed right now. So it's not like that was a that was a rough transition and everything for me, coming out of the fleet into something that wasn't the fleet, and then going back to the fleet and being like, do I still have it in me and stuff? And JoJo was one of those things that like kind of like helped me. I was like, you know, doing I was having nightmares. I was drinking way too much. I was like, you know, spending my money horribly and stuff like that. Like just all around not in a good place. And and the night that he was born, like, you know, like was the first time that something had changed for me. And like I, you know, felt this big sense of responsibility that wasn't like, you know, the responsibility of like, you know, combat operations or like freaking, you know, taking care of your boys or dying for your boys or some bullshit like that and stuff. It's like, it's more like something to live for and carry on for, and to be competent and, you know, to look ahead and start to plan and start to think critically about everything and figure out how to do something better. I mean, he gave me purpose and reason and all the things that I needed to be a man, like the things that I was missing, you know, besides being, you know, a rough and dangerous person and stuff, right? With most of that under control. Now I'm a rough and dangerous man with all of it under control, because I have someone to control it for, and that's my son, right? I put his little kid head in my little shoulder pocket and everything like that. It was the first night that I had that I didn't freaking toss and turn and fucking throw shit in my sleep or choke my wife to death. She didn't.
Kids are fucking wild, man. Having your first kid, definitely
Yeah.
they piston your Cheerios in the right way.
Yeah, they do change a lot of things for you. They change your perspective on life immediately. And if
Yeah.
they don't, they will eventually. Yeah. So going to 2-7 was pretty fun though. Like getting to know a new crew of guys that like it was, so the challenge was having to deal with basically the same guys that I had just left. Like dudes that had not been on combat deployments. The guys that had been on combat deployments were rotating out and everything. And you could see how some of that toxic nature and stuff of like, you know, the big dicking, like I did this and shit like that. Freaking, I'm gonna walk around with my little stack with my car on it and 5 ribbons and shit, fucking through the barracks, well, pinned to my fucking skivvy shirt while fucking drinking a handle of wild turkey or some bullshit, like fucking hazing galore and all kinds of bullshit. Like, like watching watching that happen was just like, nope, yeah, we're not doing this. And then like watching the now new senior Marines and stuff that like that are just struggling to maintain their credibility for, you know, based off of competence and knowledge without any combat experience and stuff, where combat experience is the only resource that anybody seems to fucking care about. Like I can see how it was challenging for them. And, you know, for me, it was, you know, I had the advantage, as many of the other squad leaders, like, you know, Fallon or Hatcher or Fuji and stuff like that all did, of having that experience and being able to use that to kind of like be like, hey, I don't give a fuck. Like, if your senior has or has not been to fucking combat and shit like that, you're gonna do what he says. You're gonna listen to him and you're gonna respect him because that's the fucking chain of command. And that was a lot of like those days when you had to like straight up put dudes at parade rest and everything to put them, like, you know, to knock him down, like, and be like, hey, when you're talking to him, you're gonna actually no shit put yourself in a position where you appear to be respectful. That way there is no there's no confusion about it, right? You don't have to do that so much anymore. You don't see that at all anymore. And nobody talks to anybody at parade rest anymore. Come on. But like, you know, everybody's kind of on the same level now. Nobody's going to war. Come on. You know, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So there's that.
I remember
Yeah.
that shit.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of sugar cookie low crawl days and stuff. I love that. That was good times.
Sugar cookie.
Yeah. Love me some sugar cookie out there with the dudes. And then that was the deployment out to, you know,
Japan.
do our like 31st speed deployment out to like Okinawa and stuff, right? That's where
Yep.
where I had a stroke. Yeah. That was me.
Oh,
Yeah.
I remember. No, I know it was you, but is it what I heard? Was it C4
Yeah.
playing Xbox?
Yeah. So I planned on going to the gym the day prior. I had, you know, taken a couple of scoops of C4. I went to the gym. I freaking blasted like a 4-hour workout. And I was just like, that felt great. Boy, I'm doing it again tomorrow. Right. So I'm like, okay, have a scoop this time. I think I'm going to take it easy-ish. Take 1 scoop of the C4, turn on the laptop and everything for like the half hour that you're supposed to wait before you go to the gym, because I'm going to Skype the wifey. And she's like, hey, you need to get on Xbox Live right now because all my brothers are on and everybody's playing Call of Duty and shit. I'm like, all right, sweet. Well, I was about to go to the gym. Well, now you're not. So bet. Right. So I sit down, playing the Xbox, doing my normal thing, drinking coffee and freaking dipping and stuff like that, which is not a good thing to combine while you have pre-workout in
Fuck
your
no.
system. No, it's such a bad idea. But like, you know, oh my God, this is just like, it's the worst idea, if anything, right? So you're sitting there stationary and stuff while you've got like all these chemicals running through your system that do opposite things, right? Caffeine, nicotine, freaking nitrogen, and all that kind of crap. And then, you know, 3 hours go by of me friggin' sitting there like killing it. I'm like, I got KDs of like 27-1, 31-2, like shit, man. I'm fucking out there like wrecking them. I'm in the fucking zone, you know what I mean? I'm like, you let me fucking go. I'll run and gun, I'll freaking jump snipe 360 and shit like that. Fuck you. Like it was great. It was a good day. Thanks to C4. Killing it, top of the leaderboard.
I
And then
remember. Yeah, I think it was Barons that told us. Alec
yeah,
told us
yeah,
that that happened with you. And I mean, I remember like that was Jack 3D. And like
yeah.
you don't make it to the gym quick enough. You're laying in your bathroom just turning
Yeah,
into
like
Santa.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
There's still more stuff that's been doing that. Like you've seen the ones where like people drag their fingers across their friggin' skin and it just like raises up and everything. It's like, okay, before I go to the ER, you know, take some put some put some art on my arms. God.
So what ended up happening? Did you end up stateside?
No, no, I stood up from my chair and everything. My whole left side went numb. This is after, of course, signing off of the Xbox, so I don't have anybody to cry to help for. Like, I go
Yeah.
next door to Stembridge's room, and I'm like, "Hey, Stembridge, I don't feel so good." I try to do like some push-ups and mountain climbers and whatever like that to see if I could get my blood flowing again and make the numbness go away. And yeah, instead of like both of your feet being numb or both of your like hands being numb or something like that, which would be like more of like a bilateral parasth or bilateral freaking you know um numbness and stuff like that. This was just like half of my
Yeah.
body, like just the left half. So I figured something was wrong, Stanbridge's like, I'm gonna get Doc. Doc's like, I think you're having a stroke. I'm like, I'm having a stroke. Like, so I go to the hospital at Camp Foster, stay there for about 4 days.
Okay.
First, they send me out, right? They send me back that night. They're like, here's your diagnosis, paresthesis. It's like numbness on half of your body. I'm like, my diagnosis is my symptom. Like, are you serious? Like, is that it? So the MO sees me the next day, and he had done like neurology and stuff like that while he was in medical school and everything. So he's like, I'm gonna run some tests real quick from based off what I know, because I think you had a stroke. And confirmed it, sent me back to neurology. They started running me through treatment for like, having a stroke, give me like some Agranox and baby aspirin and tell me that I'm only allowed to drink like 50 milligrams worth of caffeine a day and stuff like that. I'm like, how much coffee is that? They're like, about half a cup. I'm like, you're high, because I drink about 12 cups of coffee a day at the very least. um Anything else? It's like, yeah, you can't smoke anymore. It's like, are you serious? I smoke like friggin' 2 packs a day. Like, what are you gonna do next? Tell me I can't drink beer? It's like, "No, actually, you can drink beer." I'm like, you can't take that away from me. I mean, if anything, that'll help. I'm like, well, now you're
Yeah.
talking my language, Doc. All right, sweet. So I lay there and stuff, like in the bed for like 4 days, and they send me back, put me on like convalescent leave in Okinawa, like in my room, walking up and down the stairs, and well, hobbling or limping up and down the stairs six
Yep.
times a day to get to chow, 6 times a day, because I went at 5 in the morning and then 7:45 and then 11 and then 12:45 and then like for dinner twice as well. So I'm like, I got I put on some weight. I got nice and friggin' bulked up and everything, getting ready to friggin' for when I come off and you know go on light duty and get to PT on my own to start jacking weights. So that's what I
Yeah.
did. Then we got on ship, and it was just like, okay, for a week it was 1 a day. Next week it was 2 days. Next week it was 3 days. And then I kept on doing like 3 days the entire time they were on ship. And then I'd be going to the gym like friggin' every day, a couple times a day and stuff when we got back. And I got freaking lean. Like come back from that deployment, like 105 or 155 pounds, just freaking cut. Like I was like 160, 165. Uh by the time my convalescent leave and light duty was up and everything, right? And it was kind of like pudgy and everything. I lost my abs. And, I had grown a little bit of you know, a little bit on the upper deck. You know what I mean? Looking soft. But
Yeah.
once I started hitting that gym and like really rocking it, I'm out there with Herbie and stuff, and like we're racing on the freaking treadmills and everything, and just doing like mobility circuits and stuff, like
Yeah.
on my third workout of the day. But like doing all that, I came back freaking huge. And I also came back to a new daughter, because in September, that's when my daughter was born. It was on Hervey's birthday is also my daughter's birthday, September 16th.
Really?
Yeah, no shit.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So I got lit that night, you know what I mean? Talking to the wife and everything, being like, oh yeah, our baby's born. That's great. Oh, you're gonna go sleep. That's awesome. Okay, well, I'm gonna go celebrate. So I did, because not much I can do from the other side of the freaking world,
Yeah.
but get drunk and smoke cigars and celebrate that my daughter was born, and I got hammered drunk, hammered drunk. Don't remember much of that except for like waking up the next day, laying on the floor of my barracks room and stuff like that. And there's a Red Cross message underneath the door. Like, I think that's what woke me up. The Red Cross message got slid underneath the door and hit me in the foot. I'm like, oh, what's the? Oh yeah, I know. My daughter's born. It's great. Awesome. Yeah, a little late, guys. Appreciate it though. So that was fun. And then, I come back to my new daughter, who's at that point about 3 months old and stuff, and just super cute little podling looking thing, like from the Dark Crystal and stuff, like the little things that they sit in the chair
Yeah.
and suck the souls out of. Yeah,
Yeah.
that one. That was great. But like that whole being deployed while the baby's born thing and stuff like that, not a great thing for your marriage. I'm gonna tell you right now, because they hold that shit against you in a
Yeah.
big way. I mean, I guess most of them do, not all of them, but like, yeah. Um, after 2-7, oh well, actually, the next thing was going to be an Afghan deployment, but I ended up not going on that because I put in another combat instructor package to go back and be an instructor again, or try to be an instructor. And you
So
know,
you were only 2-7, then one Mia.
yeah, just for the one meal. And
Okay.
but I was there for the entirety of the deployment on RBE. Like, everybody got back like 2 weeks before I left. I'm like, man, I could have just gone on that deployment, guys. But like, they only sent like 240, 250 guys on that deployment anyway to Afghanistan, like to Dwyer after you remember after the freaking the airfield got freaking raided and shit like that, and the tallies freaking killed the wing commander and shit, and blew up a bunch of freaking planes and shit.
That was in what year?
It was in 2012.
I
Yeah.
was I was out of 2-7.
Yeah, you were already gone by then. But I
Yeah.
was I was still there, and I was getting the intel briefs and stuff like that and getting ready to fucking go. But they're like, nah, man, your package is approved and stuff like that. Freaking, we're gonna keep you here on RBE with the majority of the rest of the battalion, and only send over this many guys and stuff. So, sucks to suck. Sorry. Like, bummer. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So ended up not going to Afghanistan or getting into that cool fucking Afghan fruit salad, but like, whatever. It wasn't much of a crazy deployment anyway, from what I hear. Mostly a lot of standing post and staying inside of the wire and not doing anything. And if they're going to do any patrols, they're all white light patrols and stuff. And it's like, oh God, here we go. Yep. Yeah. I heard about that. Freaking super restrictive ROEs and basically freaking stay in the bases. Yeah. That's basically what it was like under the Obama administration. Yeah. And you know, it was pretty sure it was also an election year. So yeah, kind of a big deal to like be like, yeah, we're not doing anything. We're actually planning on leaving, that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Right. And that was the idea, to kind of like, amplify the freaking, your support by ending the war. Yeah, there you go. But that still didn't happen for about another decade, did it? Yeah, yeah. How about that?
So
So
so you went to who?
I
You
went to
went
be
back?
I went to be a combat instructor on the
Okay.
East Coast this time, and that was great. Uh, I loved it. Did 3 years there as combat instructor. I had a lot of fun. Um, so I pushed machine guns for about a year, then I pushed 11s for about a year, and then I pushed the machine guns again for another year, and that was freaking great. I mean, it was a good experience and everything like that to go and push 11s and get into a lot of the 0 through 11 freaking individual tasks and collective tasks and stuff up to the squad level, and really understand how to do things. I got to go to infantry unit leaders course and advanced machine gun course while I was there as well. So getting a lot of my PME school training done and everything was a good thing, because that prepared me for my next step, which was getting back to the fleet again, going to 2-2 as a platoon sergeant, a rifle platoon sergeant. Oh God. Oh, 0311s. Ah, that's like the most stressful job I've ever had, was freaking, because it's like, one, it's simple, right? It's easy to be a platoon sergeant for a platoon because you've got squad leaders, and your squad leaders are pretty freaking good at what they do. I've had like maybe one or two shitty squad leaders that I've fired and put a freaking lance corporal in their place. I mean, fuck yeah. But like,
Right. Yeah.
yeah, rah. but like, I also had like, the common thing that happens throughout like any unit and stuff. There's always some scourge of bullshit that happens, and it's usually drugs. In 2.7, we had the freaking spice. In 2.2, they started with the freaking THC vapes and shit like that. They were freaking making people pop for meth somehow and shit because like the weird fucking chemical composition of the shit, the way it freaking came out, right? So people will be popping for meth, but it's like, nah, I just hit this vape. You know, it's like, yeah, once, no, you weren't just hitting it once. Come on, man. Let's be real. So yeah, dude's doing that, and then fucking Molly and shit, and a bunch of ecstasy going around and shit. So like freaking, I was like losing. I lost like a third of my platoon to drugs. That was freaking horrible. I was pissed off. Like drugs and UA, or like, another guy got stabbed in the barracks and stuff over some shade that got thrown on Facebook. Like, oh, I'm like,
That
what
sucks.
is wrong with you guys? Is this me? Are you a direct reflection of my poor leadership? That's just what it is. This is
Okay,
got
so your platoon is deteriorating fast.
yeah, and this where it gets freaking really hairy because I'm spending like every night until like 2000 at work trying to freaking work all these administrative tasks while freaking running through freaking NJP paperwork and stuff like that, or freaking 6105s or whatever like that, or freaking trying to call somebody's mom or somebody's wife, or freaking get a hold of this dude's baby mamas and shit like that, because like he has like he's a PFC that has like 4 kids from 3 different baby mothers and shit like that, and freaking has like hardly enough money to freaking be able to take care of them. So I've got to run through things like the Fro and freaking whatever other kind of like programs and stuff like that that I can try to get him support with, like giving him my own furniture and everything. Like, these are just like examples of,
So you're essentially rebooted and living back at work.
yeah, basically living back at work. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've got a wife, I've got 4 kids, you know what I mean? I'm like, and what am I? I'm never seeing them. It's like being a combat instructor again, where like I'd freaking leave before the same sun came up and come back home like freaking, at 0 dark and shit like that, and never see my family with their eyes open. Here we are back to that again. And then,
Mhm.
the wife started working at a job and everything like that to kind of help, like, the finances, because, 4 kids and stuff like that. Now you got to have 2 vehicles because you got 2 parents working and stuff. So, that's 2 car payments. And, maybe if we only had the one, wouldn't need that
Yeah.
other job, that kind of stuff. So it's kind of like one of those things, like, what are you going to do? What are you going to have? So those conversations you have to have with your spouse and stuff, and figure out what you want to do, what you're going to do, and is the juice worth the squeeze. But throughout all that stress and all of that, like, separation and that time away and everything, and a couple of training freaking ops that we went off to and stuff, that we had to jump on buses, go out to like Pickett or AP Hill or freaking whatever like that, or Bridgeport and stuff, like things started to fall apart, and we decided to drift. Well, we began to drift apart, like as a family and shit like that. And that's where I lost my wife. She went and found up and fell in love with somebody else, and that's okay. Like, I guess, like, now it is anyway. But like,
Yeah.
forgetting,
If I really quick, if I remember correctly, obviously I'm not gonna name drop out of respect like
yeah,
to her. Was she prior enlisted or
yeah,
was that just a tattoo?
no, she was in, yeah.
Okay.
So like, after she, yeah, so after, like, she decided up and leave me, I freaking kept on trying to keep it all together and stuff. And that was the biggest thing. Okay, this is where we get into the next thing. This is an awesome segue into the biggest hang up and the stressor or whatever like that. My downfall essentially was this. It was like the loss of my family, because that was my identity, right? Or my new identity, because it's all I had to lean on. Because being, a Marine, or being an infantryman, being a machine gunner, being a combat instructor, being a freaking, like, all those things and stuff like that. Right now, I'm an infantry platoon sergeant. I'm doing a job that I haven't done before and stuff. And, nestling into that identity wasn't comfortable for me,
Yep.
especially because of all the administrative tasks that I wasn't freaking familiar or good at.
Yep.
Right. And then, so I spent more time doing them. And then, you know, having 4 kids and having a wife, that was all I had. That was like my solid grounding. The one thing, the one safe thing that I had and stuff that I could count on after a long, stressful day of fucking work, and like losing a third of my platoon to fucking drugs and violence and bullshit and everything like that, or freaking, desertion, was, my kids and my wife. And when I didn't have that anymore, I fell the fuck apart. Like, I a couple of suicide attempts and shit like that. And then freaking eventually I just freaking decided to take my ass over to the freaking psych ward and be like, yo, um, I'll do it again. I need help. I'll fucking do it again,
Mhm.
And they're like, okay, cool. They put me in the psych ward for like 6 days, and I got support. I got like seen. Got a whole bunch of fucking tools that I could use for cognitive behavioral therapy and stuff like that, and freaking like thought journals and crap like that, or freaking read this book, or like make a make a list of the things that you're grateful for and all that kind of crap. But I say crap, but like it's homework, right? And when you're starting, when you begin, it's really useful. And this is, I mean, because you don't know how to do it yet, right? You don't know how to like run through your thoughts and, actually take the events, thoughts, feelings, and behaviors and stuff like that and separate those things and be able to go bounce, fluidly back and forth and come to a place where you actually have a healthy thought that's closer to being accurate, or, or that's precisely what you really mean to think or mean to say, that doesn't come from a place of resentment or like pettiness or rage or whatever it is, something that's not harming you. Like a lot of our thoughts and everything like that, especially initially, come from a place of fear, and that fear can cause you to do just about anything. I mean, like, my little raccoon in the corner freaking lashing out and shit like that, freaking, you, all right, might not work out for you if you're a raccoon fighting a grizzly bear, but if you're, a honey badger, I mean, maybe it will, but like still, like, but still, like, behaving in such a way that's going to be harmful to you or potentially harmful to somebody else or anything like that. I mean, it's not the what you want to do. And doing nothing at all is even worse, right? Like freaking approaching everything from a place of apathy or a place of complete inaction and stuff, and allowing the world to just fucking happen around you while you crawl into a fucking bottle or stay in your room or freaking binge watch Netflix and stuff like that and watch everything fall apart. That is also not the answer. So like freaking thoughts and feelings and don't behave is not the answer. Freaking letting the world walk all over you and stuff like that and saying thank you sir, may have another, like excessive gratitude and shit for the things that you probably should not be accepting, that is also not the answer. You got to find a place where you still treat yourself like someone you're responsible for helping, which is like one of my things that Jordan Peterson likes to say, his second rule from 12 rules for life, right? That's where you got to get to, or where I think that I eventually got to after leaving. Because the next thing that happened was I got orders. I got put in RBE as the company gunnery sergeant and stuff. I was there for
For two
about,
two.
yeah, for 2-2, about 7-8 months or something like that. And then got orders to go to Coronado, to California. And I'm like, what? You know what I mean? Like, initially the orders were for like Chesapeake, Virginia. I'm like, hey man, I don't want to leave Camp Lejeune. Can we like augment these orders and like, just keep me here and stuff like that? I don't care. Like keep me in this same unit, put me in another Victor unit, whatever it is and stuff like that. Like send me to be a common instructor again. I don't care what it is. Just keep me here in Camp Lejeune because I'm going through a divorce and I want to be by my kids during that thing. And I want to be able to finish this and stuff like that. And he's like, okay, cool. Yeah, I'll call you back. Right. Next thing I know, my orders are changed to fucking Coronado, California, on like the little island off of San Diego and stuff. Right. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that is 3,000 miles away from my children. And that is
Yeah.
not cool, bro. I mean, it's like, all right, cool. Well, you're either going to suck it up or you're going to take a fucking RE3 Oscar or whatever like that. Right. Like a bad reenlistment code where you can't freaking reenlist and shit. So I'm like, well, 15 years in, I guess I better freaking go, because like,
We had to take a tack pause. We had to check on our supporting assets. Um,
yeah,
you were finishing talking about 2-2 getting orders to Coronado, right?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So let's
So,
continue that, and then I'll jump on my stuff on the next part.
all right, sweet.
Okay.
Yeah, so like that was 3-year orders out there to Coronado away from my family. And at first seemed like was going to be the worst 3 years of my life ended up not sucking so bad. At the time I had a new girlfriend and stuff like that, and she decided that she wanted to, be all in love and come out to California with me and stuff, and like, keep me company and all that kind of stuff. So I got to do a lot of cool things and stuff, like, have someone to be there with me and stuff, and like, still able to do dad things by helping her raise her kids and everything. So, still kind of like, task and mission oriented and everything like that, and serving in the same capacity of being like, you know, male figure and everything like that, and in the lives of children, and then also serving in my capacity as a Marine and stuff, working as an operations chief out there in Coronado. Definitely not grunt life. So not doing anything dynamic or super cool or whatever like that. I mean, and yeah, it's kind of a break, but it's definitely not what I wanted, because I like to run and gun. I like to be in the mix, you know what I mean? But I think being away from that, having pretty consistent hours of working, that light, like very minimal friggin' stress and stuff like that, working in an operations shop and kind of like knowing how everything goes, or being in the know of everything coming up. um, and then having good friends that I made, through my workplace and stuff. It was decent, despite a whole lot of drinking that I was doing. um, it didn't destroy my mind, and it gave me opportunities to, like, actually get a lot better. Like, it
Yeah.
started by reading, like, getting into a lot of audio booking and stuff on my long drives to work or whatever, or like, on my long drives for leave, and stuff like that. And that was really good for me to kind of, to build myself back up by educating myself on, mental health, and finding tools to be able to coach myself into a place that's good. So my drinking went down, and I started picking up something else of an activity, doing jujitsu, and that was really good. Getting in with a crew of dudes and stuff, and making new friends, and being able to actually, like, engage my body and stuff like that, like a weapon, as I'm, accustomed to doing. Uh, it really elevated my attitude, and especially during COVID and stuff. That was like basically the thing that saved me from being like stuck in my house and just teleworking and crap like that. And then, after 3 years of all that, I broke up with the girlfriend, but like, came back to North Carolina, and I get to be with my kids again, and I get to do the job that I love, and I get to have a platoon of guys and stuff like that. That makes it easy for me to be here. And I'm going to close out this career in about 2 years on, the best note that I possibly can when I
Mhm.
retire, and just, you know, be grateful for everything that I have. Right now, I am actually, no shit, not even fighting, trying to pretend to be grateful and stuff. I have my children. I have a decent, amicable, and, a workable relationship with my ex and stuff, where, like, we can communicate openly, we can work together and stuff, and take care of the kids without having to, like, nothing is at one another's expense in such a way that it's like, petty or resentful. And
Pretty decent co-parenting.
yeah, pretty,
Yeah.
really decent co-parenting. I've got, I've got the job that I love. I've got a great support crew and everything like that while I'm out there. My platoon commander is a great dude. First sergeant's a great dude. Like, the whole, like, chain of command is amazing. And I'm like out there about to deploy here next month. And, I'm pretty well prepared for it, except for I got to put my stuff in storage, but yeah,
Yeah.
I'm ready to go. And I'm happy about everything. It's, I'm good where I am. Yeah.
With without sounding ignorant, I'm saying that for what I'm about to say. OPSEC,
Mhm.
wherever you're going, do you have all the amenities that you need out there, or do you need
Oh yeah.
shit done?
No, yeah, everything's good. If I, like, needed to, I'm going out to Okinawa, man. It's just like a
Yeah.
UDP,
Oh,
so I'm not really worried about it too much. I mean, I got everything that
yeah, you're not
I'm
getting
gonna
any
need out
fucking
there.
care packages. Forget about it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna need nothing.
Nope.
Yeah, yeah. I got the PX. They got beer. And I
Yeah,
got
you're good.
I'm gonna pack up my Xbox, play a bunch of Skyrim in the barracks and stuff because they're probably gonna be like super COVID restricted and everything while I'm out there. So I'm like, oh no, we can't train. It looks like I'm swinging this sword again.
Are you still doing Skyrim? That shit's like
I
5 years
know.
old.
I was playing that like 10 years ago when we were out in Okinawa. Yeah.
God.
Yeah. On that Oki deployment, I was playing hell of Skyrim. But like, yeah, I'm gonna be doing that again. Yeah, I'm still playing that. I had to start a
Okay.
new profile for the new Xbox, so I gotta level this sucker up and get my
Right?
Dragon Bone armor back.
Just no pre-workout, homie, if you're not going to the gym.
Yeah, that's right. And that's
But
one of those things. Like every week, I intend to take my platoon out there to the mats and stuff because they've got great martial arts freaking facilities out there. You know, get them there on the mat, get them training and stuff like that, doing a good amount of ground fighting and standing free sparring and everything, and find a crew that I can train with every day.
yeah. Do you remember
Quist.
Brian Fisher?
Yeah, I remember Fisher. Yeah.
Saltman, I think he was.
Yeah.
Or I don't know. His cousin-in-law was a Marine at the time. I don't know what he's doing now.
Yeah.
He was stationed on Kadena,
Yeah.
and Fisher and I were able. We went out to Kadena, got shit faced on the golf course, hung out at his cousin or whatever's house, and the wife was like Filipino or something, so we ate a bunch of bomb ass food.
Yeah. Sick.
Oh man, it's crazy just the talking about this kind of shit and having it come back, the
Yeah.
little silly memories of things.
Yeah, if it wasn't for COVID, I think I'd take more advantage of Okinawa this time around, knowing what was there. Because I remember Alonji and Alvarez were out there rock climbing, spear fishing, like getting scuba certified, and all kinds of stuff. It's like, why didn't I do that the first time? Why did I just stay in the barracks and drink or play Skyrim and all that kind of crap? I got to get out there, but you know, with the Omicron, probably not going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Hey, but if they've got all this nonsense going on over in Okinawa, maybe you don't have to go to like J-Dub or anything.
Yeah, I mean that's part of the plan, though. We intend to go to J-Dub. At least the line companies will.
If
Like,
that's what it's even called now.
yeah, it still is, but like there's I mean we've set up a whole bunch. Well, not we, but like Ops has set up a bunch of like battalion fexes throughout the entirety of the thing. So we will be training while we're out there, even if we have to do it on the grass on base. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
It's like I'm up, he sees me, I'm down across the fucking LZ.
So with you having 2 years left and these last 18 have flown by.
Oh yeah.
Good, bad, and different. What's next for Warbag?
Bro, I don't know what I'm going to be after this. I know I don't want to do another regular job. So I've been looking at, since now I'm pretty well accustomed to, um, long distance and separation from my kids and being able to maintain contact with them and stuff over video chats and all that. Um, I might go back to Oregon and go fix up the old family property, clean out the garage, and use all the tools that are in there to start a couple of small businesses, whether it be cabinet building or freaking making birdhouses or like whatever. Or I might stay out here and try to truck or haul some of that stuff back here and start it back here. Like whatever it is, just little things. I want to do, crafts and building and build my own things and stuff like that and start my own stuff. I thought about, pipe dream is, put together a range and train people for like basic stuff like Clint Smith does out at Thunder Ranch and everything with his basic infantry knowledge that he had when he was in, and then his many years of law enforcement experience and stuff. He trains only the basics of like, movement with and weapons manipulation and stuff like that, and then conceptualizing the more advanced skills and everything, or like stuff like terminal ballistics or like considerations for like where you're going to impact a person on their body to neutralize them in such a way that like you're still in the capacity of self-defense without it being murder. like something like that would be like, the long game kind of dream and stuff like that, but you've got to build some capital for that. And I don't feel like taking out a ton of debt to do it. So I,
And the cool thing, as you've seen, as ridiculous, childish, emotionally dysregulated, and extremely beneficial social media is.
oh yeah.
At the end of the day, when you are getting closer to that period, I mean, you have probably more contacts through social media than people you've served with at this point.
Oh, for sure. Like I've got guys that I talk to on a fairly regular basis and stuff like that. They're definitely someone that I can lean on for advice or for like, a little bit of like, hey man, just hang in there and stuff. It's not always going to be roses. Here's a couple of my challenges that I went through and stuff. And here's how I got through them. I mean, you look at guys like Adam, right? Over at Goons Up. He's like, I mean, he went from doing his job as well as running this site to now his site is his job, and that's like the goal, right? Like to be an entrepreneur or to have your own thing, something that you can call your own, that you built from the ground up. I mean, that's big time goals, bro. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. And
Like,
it's cool because like a big piece with this back azimuth and with the abbreviation of BAS, just because it's
yeah,
hysterical that worked out.
yeah,
Uh, with this, with Goons Up, with Mission Essential, the PB Abate, and there's a
yeah,
lot of different things that are out there that can provide insight for transitioning members. And that's a huge thing for the 4 or 20-year people.
yeah. I mean, there's big resources out there those guys know about, and just reaching out to them and stuff. I mean, they're only a DM away. I mean, sometimes you just got to swallow your pride and just ask the freaking question, or
Yeah.
you wait for them to come up with a little prompt of ask me a question.
Yeah,
All right.
exactly. Yeah. And I know you see a lot of the shit that I post. And
Yeah.
my big thing that I always try to push on everybody is at no point, unless if you're like the 0.001% of the military, which is like 13 people ever.
Yeah.
Um, all of us were always with somebody. And every patrol convoy you were on, you always had somebody with you. And when we get out of the service, we have a tendency to willingly lose all those supporting assets in it.
Yeah.
So
Self-isolate. Yeah.
yeah. And it's a big thing. Like when I talk to you, but when I explain a bit about my backstory with you, that's a big thing I spaced on.
Mm-hmm.
And that this patrol we're on now requires fucking assets because none of us know what the fuck we're doing at the end of the day. We're all figuring out active or veteran.
Yeah. You right.
Yeah. And
So
it's crazy that you came from Rogue River.
yeah.
2020, um, in 2020, my ex and kids moved to Kansas.
Yeah.
And when they did that, I made the decision to move out to Crescent City.
Oh yeah.
And then I met a friend, lived out in Rogue River, spent a lot of time out there.
It's pretty
It's just,
sick, dude. Yeah, I
it's,
love it out there.
it's wild. It's just wild to think about
Yeah.
that. I'm like, man, it's such a small, awesome little town. I loved
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Love me some Red River. They closed down the Homestead, turned it into Tarasco's Mexican restaurant or something like that. But like, that place was like it. So now it's like a one bar town because the other bar burned down last time I was on leave. I'm like, no way.
I love how small it is, and
Yeah.
it's in the ball.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. I mean, I come from like, 12 miles up the mountain and stuff like that, out in like past Weimar and everything, like
yep, yep,
going up
yep.
going up Pleasant Creek to like the middle of the woods and everything. I mean, that's where I hail from.
Don J, right there,
Yeah.
Mr.
Yeah.
Rambo.
Yeah. I love it. I'd like to get back to the sticks and, just, whenever I'm back there, which isn't very often and stuff, I like to like do a little bit of work on the property. It makes me feel like, like a kid again,
Mhm.
you know, falling some trees or like, make some wood or whatever like that, or, clearing out some vines or doing some like some fire management and everything. It's not like I mean, it's cathartic in a lot of ways because working with your hands, I mean, always is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
Um,
let's talk about you, bro.
okay.
Here.
Okay. Not I and I don't want to dilute this conversation because this is mostly your story since I've dropped my story.
Yeah.
Um, I essentially, you knew me in 27. I had 2 kids. Yeah. And I went to 1-1. Then I went to Into Warriors. Then I got out. I got out with like dozen different pills
Oh,
at the
yeah.
time. And when I got out of the service, I played the 50s mentality of go work in a factory.
Yeah.
And I was working in a factory. I started school to open up a range. Fucking same thing.
Yeah.
Um, in school, I was working at a freezer plant at the time, which just fucking hurt the body.
Oh, yeah.
Um, being a dad, being a husband, not knowing what's going on with me, trying to ignore it, not talking to people. I mean, I got out in 15 and a lot of dudes were dropping at the cycling
Yeah,
and
man.
big and like I'm not going to say some of the names, you and I know a handful of them. Um, and further that furthered the isolation because it's like I didn't want to even reach out to people just because I was like, what if I don't get an answer? Like that's gonna make it worse.
Yeah.
And then I got into a different job working at a manufacturing plant for Chrysler. And I was working there and I was in charge of anywhere from 80 to 150 people. And I'm doing that. I'm working anywhere from 60 to 100 plus hours, depending on what's going on, doing school, doing all of it. And with me, pretty much what happened was there was my circuit breaker went off in my head. And for my metaphorical circuit breaker went off in my head. And for about 6 months, I was drinking heavy, fighting, fucking trying to fucking give up multiple times, failing at that shit too.
Hmm.
And I ended up at a inpatient in Chicago for our community.
Yeah.
And that was the first time that I really talked to the community, not some fucking shrink that never served. And it was cool to connect and realize that I'm not fucking special. I deal with shit like any of us does.
Yeah.
And I got out of that. That helped me. That probably saved my life, like the CBT and all that.
Yeah.
Got out of that program and I made the decision to file for a divorce because my 7 years in the service, I mean, you get it. For my seven, I was probably only home for 2 years total
Yeah.
between training and deployments. Um, I didn't know her essentially. She didn't really know me. I was dealing with shit. She was coping in her own way. She had her own problems. I had my own problems. And I realized that in order to be a good dad, I had to step away from her, figure out who the hell I was so I could be a better father.
Yeah.
And of course, that is the skimmed over PG version.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it was hard. It was that last year, I would say that last year until discharge from the inpatient was fucking hell. hands down. And I mean, my big thing, and that's why I preach so much now, is the community. And if I could ever be like a ghost of Christmas past for me, I would have been like, just go through your Rolodex and just get a hold of everybody,
Oh yeah.
no matter
That's
what.
it's one of the things I'm really glad that I reached out to Herbie while I was in Cali, because yeah, he was like right up there in LA, going to like UCLA and stuff. And, he's a counselor now working in palliative care over at the VA. He's a great dude, man. And like I'd, roll up to his place and stuff, spend a weekend, kick it in the pool, go on runs early in the morning, drink all night or whatever like that. But like, just, you know, being bros with him. I mean, having someone that that like, served with Hurry like while I was at ATG and in 27. So
That's awesome.
like that was solid. That's like a bro for life, you know what I mean? And having him there was everything to me,
Yeah.
because he knew me. He knew Jen and stuff, you know what I mean? And he knew, the kids and stuff. And it's like, dude, bro, like that's family right there. And it's
Mhm.
always important to have family. And even if it's like guys that, you may not have served with and stuff like that, but like having somebody that you can reach out to that actually understands what's going on, it's like a big thing. You know,
Yeah.
you can like share your experiences, however different they may be. And it comes from a place of real compassion and stuff like that. And like, real understanding when that dude is listening, he's listening.
Yeah. And the big thing that fucks people up is the ego.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and with all of that though, I mean, at the with all of that being said, everything that I've gone through, I am grateful for where I am today
Yeah.
with my own growth and with the fact that I started BAS like a business, not just an Instagram page. I'm getting ready to start my master's in psych so I can be like fucking Brandon.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's wild to see this shit. I mean, and like I get to video my kids frequently. I get to see them every now and then. And like I saw my kids 2 weekends ago, I think.
Yeah.
Last weekend or 2 weekends ago for Christmas, and they're 4 hours away from me now. And I got to go down there, hang out with them, give them their presents. And my oldest, my oldest son is 11 now, and he's like, "So, Dad, what's going on with you? What are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm going to school. I want to become a doctor." And his eyes lit up. He's like, "Really?" I'm like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
He's like,
Wow.
he's like, "Okay, what else are you doing?" I was like, "I created a business where I'm helping veterans with stuff." He's like, "So like a half-ass doctor?" And I'm like, "Yeah, like a half-ass doctor. Thanks,
Yeah.
bud."
Nice. Love
Yeah.
that.
Thanks
Oh,
for keeping me in check,
man.
homie.
Yeah. It's a little bit of that humility. Oh, I just
Yeah.
gotta have something.
But do you have any major, not I don't want to say major, that's a disrespectful word. Do you have any other lessons of note? Any fortune cookies that you could share with somebody that could be watching them?
I'd just say, like, you know, find something that interests you and like read it. Like you never know where you get that little nugget from and stuff, right? Like
Yeah.
I threw myself in a whole bunch of reading and everything, where it been like crap from the commandant's reading list or whatever like that, or just things that I saw on Instagram pages and everything. I'm like, oh yeah, dude's a pretty good guy. I think I'm gonna read some of his stuff. Like, I like Jordan Peterson, right? And then that just carries you in a whole bunch of other stuff, right? So like, watching him and watching Jocko or watching Joe Rogan and everything, that throws me into things like, oh, now I have to read The Rape of Nanking. Now I have to read Sog. Now I have to read freaking In Order to Live by Yeonmi Park, or like read things like As a Man Thinketh. I picked that one up from a dude that I met in an airport. That was like, he was like a foreign student that was going through the TACP course and everything. And like, I saw him and his buddy with like, the little Molly on the bag and stuff. So figure we're going to sit out the bar and have a nice little conversation about whatever. And we started talking about books. So that's a good one. Or like, Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl is a really good one. Oh, yeah. Like East of Eden. I picked that one up from my XO. He was like a 52-year-old colonel, right? Over there. Either like we'd talk about books or talk about music and stuff, but like you don't know where you're gonna get the information that you're gonna use later on. Picking up a book and stuff like that, you're likely gonna find something that you really enjoy. And having all that information as a resource, something to, it's something that you have that may not be like quantifiable or may not be something that you can like, sit there like, line up on bookshelves or whatever like that and be like, oh, look at all these books that I've read. It's all up in here. And it's
Yep.
something that's useful to you to fall back on. And those stories, right? Even if it's like fiction, like Starship Troopers or like Armor or like Galaxy's Edge, which is actually a really good series, right? Those all those characters, you get to think about those like legends, right? Think of it like The Hero with the Thousand Faces by Joseph Campbell, right? Every legend or every story and everything effectively has like this certain kind of cycle or arc and everything for the character. But you are your character, right? You are like the main character in your own little freaking book or novel or whatever like that, right? So modeling yourself after heroic behavior and stuff, and understanding that you may be in an earlier phase of your story where you're undergoing challenges and trials that you're not necessarily prepared for. You will find a mentor. You're gonna find your Yoda or your fucking, your Gandalf or your fucking Dumbledore and shit like that, and he's gonna like train you up, and you're gonna find the tools that you need, to battle those dark forces that may be outside or may be inside. Yep, I think that's what I got. Yeah.
Yeah, fuck. Yeah, no, that was good. Thank you for coming to your TED Talk.
Yeah.
That was good.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Okay. With that being said, stay on the line.
Yeah.
For all the viewers that have made it this far, Warbag, I will include his handle when this gets dropped. Joe, thank you for your time, brother.
Yeah. Thanks, Ty.
You're welcome, buddy.
Yeah.